Hi there. My name is Lloyd Bridges, and I'm one of the 100 million people who drive in this country. You know, some people drive for pleasure, others do it because they have to. I must admit that I do it mainly for pleasure. Among those 100 million, there are those special people, the ones who drive for their own very special reasons. And being an enthusiast, I've seen and been a part of this very fascinating driving scene. I've never stopped being amazed by it all. In fact, there's no end to the novelty of the automobile, the shapes and sizes, the incredible things that people do with it. It's plenty exciting. Come along with me. Let me show you this world, huh? The special cars, the special people who live in this wonderful world of wheels. Come on.
Why do we call it our world of wheels? Well, last year we registered 82 million vehicles, not counting racing cars. And Americans will travel about 800 billion motoring miles this year. Young America is literally born on wheels. Toy manufacturers are always coming up with new items, such as these skateboards. But leave it to the kids to motorize them. Our world of wheels has the perfect toy for kids from 6 to 60, the cart. Now there's a familiar face. You guessed it, that's Fabian, that popular singer-actor. He's a real kart enthusiast. The cart is actually a simplified race car. They're powered by an adapted chainsaw engine and developed from 8.5 to 9 horsepower in their stock form. They rev up over 12,000 revolutions per minute and average 45 to 70 miles per hour in a race. Karting is not just for men and boys. The girls love it, too. In fact, it's a family speed sport to fit the pocketbook. You can rent a cart, buy a cart for $200, or build one. And gas mileage, well, wow. Hey, how about those wild pants, huh? Actually, Fabian is wearing protective racing chaps. Off to the races. To turn a few hot laps with his friends. Not for trophies, but just for the thrills of competition. Some of these carts can reach a top speed of over 100 miles per hour on a long straightaway. That's not unusual for a racing car, but when you're only 2 inches off the ground, well, man. After a few minutes in these cars, you get the same feeling as if you were in a big racing machine. You have the spins, the drifts, the skids, and the fast straightaways. You know that they put these little bugs in endurance races up to 500 miles? And the driver shakes himself to bits for 8 hours and enjoys it. Classes are arrived at by size of engines and combined weight of cart and driver. When a driver wants to step up in class, he just adds weight until he meets the class requirement. That's an endurance cart Fabian's driving. They call them laydowns because it reduces wind resistance and increases speed. Here's the finish. Fabian winds up in a dead heat. Now, here's an auto racing sport in which everyone can participate. Model car racing on a slot track. These little models are exact scale duplicates of their big brothers. They come in all shapes and sizes and in all the colors of the international racing world. We're watching the sports cars, but they also come in dragsters, stock cars, hot rods, well, you name it, you can get it. These electrically operated cars actually hit on a computed scale speeds up to 400 miles per hour. There are thousands of these tracks in operation throughout the world, and some of the biggest fans are professional race drivers. For example, here's Ken Miles, champion sports car driver, and his son Peter. Each driver handles his car with a thumb-operated control. He determines the forward speed and also the braking of the car. To properly handle these mighty mites, a driver must develop considerable skill. The competitive spirit is as strong in slot racing as it is among the big car drivers. As a result, there are the same thrills and spills. Looks like Ken Miles as a visitor. Ah, I'm sure you'll all recognize him. It's Jim Drury, Western picture star, fast draw artist, and enthusiastic racing buff.
How's she running this morning?
Beautifully. We're just playing around with tire pressure and generally making little adjustments, trying to get to a few hundredths of a second off the lap time.
I see. Will I get a chance to see you run?
She's ready to roll, Ken.
Surely, would you like to take a run with me?
Would I? You bet.
You've just taken a practice run with Ken Miles and Jim Drury. Now let's watch the real thing. A sports car race at Riverside International Raceway. With all the thrills and spills of sports car racing, safety devices such as roll bars, crash helmets, and safety belts are required on all cars. In fact, any driver will tell you that he feels a lot safer on the racetrack than on the freeway. Hey there, fella. No shortcuts. Now we come to a completely different type of automotive competition, the Concours d'Elegance. You'll find here cars from 1890 all the way up to the gorgeous models of today. For that reason, the cars compete in a variety of classes. Because classic cars are a family hobby, we include a fashion show for the ladies. After all, every elegant car deserves an elegant lady. Even the family pup shows what the well-dressed canine is wearing. The classic cars are here also, cars which were made during or before 1939. In order to compete, these cars must be restored part for part to the identical condition in which they left the factory. True mint condition. Now, where do they find parts for these old machines? They hunt all over the country for parts. They hold swap meets, and they're very, very fussy. If you have a 1929 car, you'd better have a 29 carburetor in it, or you'll lose points in the judging. Here are the elder statesmen of our world of wheels, the antique cars, the horseless carriages. This will give you some idea of the judging. These gorgeous new machines are judged on elegance. Cleanliness is a must. A small grease spot is a minor disaster. It'll lose points for you. You saw the enthusiastic polishing job the competitors were doing earlier? Well, the reason, obviously, is the white gloves that one of the judges is wearing. And here are the trophies, something for Mom and Dad to polish in the evening, after polishing the car all day. Today, with the emphasis more and more on decentralization, people are flocking to suburbs in the country. Wheels of some kind become a necessity, and a problem arises. Yes, the auto is a wonderful device to take you where you're going. But what do you do with it when you get there? Well, there's a partial solution. This housewife has still another solution. She's really solved the parking problem. To her own satisfaction, at least. The automobile has become the foundation of our modern world. We bathe it. We feed it. We pamper it. And we abuse it. High-speed highways such as this freeway are a great help. But in the rush hours, they more often resemble the world's longest parking lot and destruction derby. Bob Fuller, motion picture and television star, a frustrated gentleman using wheels to escape our world of wheels. Bob is just one of the millions of Americans who head for the outdoors every weekend. We use boats, trailers, golf clubs, fishing rods, guns, well, you name it, to escape the pressures of everyday living. But it takes a set of wheels to get where we're going. There's a case of wheels within wheels. A set of wheels for every job. That's quite a little cycle Bob's riding. It's become very popular in America. In fact, the two-wheelers are used today in just about every outdoor recreational activity which demands instant mobility. Bob combines two sports in one. The thrill of a cross-country ride and the prospect of a good hunt. Not all the old-timers who once had the woods to themselves are happy about the invasion of the two-wheelers. But no horse alive can go 125 miles on a gallon of oats. From the mountains to the desert. Here are some folks who spend a lot of time in the dune country simply because they like to play in the sand. Of course, they've replaced the conventional pail and shovel with a 300 horsepower toy. It's called a dune buggy. Breakfast is breakfast even in the dune country. Where do these unusual vehicles come from? Well, they come from backyards and home garages of the people who have discovered this unusual sport. Playing jockey on one of these gasoline monsters may look like a noisy and wild way to spend a weekend, but the people who drive them, they're mechanized tranquilizers. Some expert mechanics have built dune buggies for as little as $60. A few have cost as much as $5,000. You start with an assortment of junk from wrecked cars and build your chassis. For power, you use anything from a little 35 horsepower engine to a 450 horsepower mill. It just depends on the size of your dune buggy. How do they find out who has the best car and who's the best driver? By moving the starting line progressively closer to the sand dune hill until only one car is left which is able to make it. Let's watch one of the hottest buggies perform. How's this for a real coaster ride, huh? The participants are the family. Mom, Dad, the kids, and the family pet. But to those who love it, it's more than just a sport. It's a part-time way of life. A hobby as American as ham and eggs. They even get married in the dunes.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here today under the canopy of God and surrounded by His handiwork on every side. We hope and trust for no other reason but to wish this man and this woman happiness as they thinking all others that He's the only one to her. So long as you will tell me.
And in the familiar Western tradition, they ride off into the sunset. But they'll be back again to ride the dunes, hand in hand. Well, maybe not hand in hand. I guess someone has to steer that dune buggy.
Boy, there seems to be no limit to what people can do with automobiles. Be back with you in a moment now for the second half of The Wonderful World of Wheels. Do you know that millions of Americans spend from 1/12 to 1/8 of their lives in cars, not counting commercial drivers? You know, you'd think they'd have their fill of automobiles, but such is not the case. Watching automobiles in competitions of one kind or another has become the major spectator sport in America. Hard to believe? I know. Let me show you.
This is the Rod and Custom Show, and the accent is on youth. Oh, boy, this is the most. Here, the budding engineers and designers really let themselves go. As the kids themselves put it, their designing is way out. Many of these design innovations will influence Detroit's automotive styling of the future. These cars are built by individuals, by car clubs, and by former car club members, such as Big Daddy Roth, George Barris, and Bill Cushenberry, who have graduated to building these exotic cars professionally. Here's a classic chassis for our world of wheels. These exotic cars are not all show. Some are built for go. Here's Big Daddy Roth at the beach with his surf-like car. He carries one man on a surfboard. The young lady presumably furnishes her own transportation. Ungallant, perhaps, but it seems to work for Big Daddy. For those of you who favor togetherness, here's the Big Surf Woody, custom built by driver George Barris. Now we know why he brought the gal along. George couldn't go surfing by himself if he wanted to. The pretty electronics expert is the only one who knows how to get the surfboards out. In the old days, the comedy-minded salesman said, you can have your car in any color, so long as it's black. Well, now, cars come in all the colors of the spectrum and beyond. Here's John Derrick driving one in charming Pinto. Television's contribution to our world of wheels. The magnificent Munster. With 2/3 of the earth covered by water, here is the obvious solution, the aqua car. Of course, I'm never without one. If you think today's cars are new and wacky, check this 1900 Nautilus, Barney Oldfield's submarine car of a couple of decades ago. Here comes a refugee from a Coney Island roller coaster. Seatbelts, anyone? As far back as the hand-cranked camera, the movies have found the automobile indispensable. Then, as now, the daredevils of the oval tracks put their race cars through paces which had to be seen to be believed. They furnished the spectators with spills and chills. But most important, they made constant and worthwhile contributions toward the improvement of the automobile. There's only one tire here to blow out. So if it does, you blow out with it. In the so-called good old days, imagination produced a lot of fun cars. Even then, some of the drivers didn't know whether they were going or coming. Great as they were, the movie cars of the past could never equal the king of them all, the Goldfinger Car.
Now, pay attention, please. Windscreen bulletproof, as are the side and the rear windows. Revolving number plates, naturally. Valid all countries. see this arm here? Now open the top and inside are your defense mechanism controls. Smoke screen, oil slick, rear bulletproof screen, and left and right front wing machine guns. Now this one I'm particularly keen about. You see the gear lever here? Now if you take the top off, you'll find a little red button. Whatever you do, don't touch it.
No, why not?
Because you'll release this section of the roof and engage and fire the passenger ejector seat.
Ejector seat? You're joking.
I never joke about my work, 007.
We can't all own or drive a Goldfinger car, but we can get rid of frustrations in a weekend gymkhana. Thousands of these events are held every week all over the country. The drivers are non-professional, but the competition is keen. The cars are put through various maneuvers to test the driver's skill. In order to win, the drivers must make the fastest time and knock over as few pylons as possible. You can't win them all. Now we come to an area in our world of wheels which might be called the track burners department, because the drag racers are just that, real smokers.
Okay, it's done.
Fuel lines and everything are up good.
Put the warm-up plugs in, Dune?
Yeah, they're in. Have you checked Frankenstein out? Have you got him in shape?
Yeah, Frank is looking good.
You better watch him close. I got zapped on him yesterday.
Ronnie, let's put the nose on.
Okay.
The young drag enthusiasts call this a real boss dragster, which translated means the wildest. 'On hundreds of tracks across the country, drag teams like this shake down their cars in preparation for the big national meets. This is one of the exotic fuel cars. That's not gas. That's nitromethane. We pack the brake chute. The car is ready. The fire suit. Dragster, this asbestos-lined aluminized suit with face mask and gloves is the driver's greatest protection. These cars are designed and built to accomplish one thing, to travel a quarter of a mile from a standing start in the shortest amount of time. Many of these cars have been clocked at over 200 miles per hour. Over 200 miles per hour in a quarter of a mile. This is the big league of drag racing, the National Hot Rod Association's Winter Nationals. Here, the long hours of work, the dreams and ingenuity are put to the test. The 7-second eternity will decide success or failure. 35 million people watched drag racing last year. That's right, 5 million more than saw professional baseball, and second only to horse racing. Drag racing is highly organized. Today, the hot rodders have the full support of law enforcement agencies. It's recognized as one of the most constructive forces in the channeling of youthful energies. Hundreds of thousands of kids all over the country buy tired, used cars and rebuild them in the backyard of the family garage, often for as little as $150. If the boy's car can pass the safety regulations, there's a class at every drag strip where he can race. Earlier, you saw how the show kids pool effort and money to build the beautiful models. Well, in drag racing, it's the go kids who do the same thing. Look at a car at the drag strip and ask who owns this car, and chances are you'll be answered by a chorus of a dozen voices shouting, "We do." That'll give you an idea of how many owners one of these cars can have. Why this multiplicity of ownership? Well, as we've already pointed out, money. A hot car which stays in the competition will wear out a set of rear tires in 5 or 6 miles in one afternoon. At $75 each, that's $150. And many of these cars burn an exotic fuel, which is composed of 75% nitromethane and 25% alcohol. At $5 per gallon, that's about $65. In short, you can spend $200 to $250 in any Sunday afternoon. So you can see that when the call, "Shell out, boys, we need money," goes out for one of the poor boys' cars, it's comforting to have at least 10 or a dozen guys in your car club. What good is drag racing? Well, that shining and beautiful car that you bought last week or last year or 5 years ago carries improvements brought about by the hot rod builders. They've broken the 200-mile-per-hour barrier in the quarter mile. And where they'll go in years to come, no one will even guess. Is that important? It certainly is. The improvements built into these cars permit them to go from 0 to over 200 miles per hour in exactly 1,320 feet. These improvements have been adapted to your car, so when you're cruising about the country at a neat 65 miles per hour, and you notice your engine is really just loafing, have a good thought for the hot rod builders. The one-horse town which went to 400 horse. DeCoyne, Illinois, home of the age-old Hamiltonian trotters, now is the home of the hot stock cars. Stock car racing is strictly an American innovation. The story has it that young moonshiners in the southeastern United States souped up their cars to outrun the revenue agents. Seems that was so much fun, the boys had gathered at the county fairgrounds on weekends to race. Thus, stock car racing was born, became popular at Daytona, Florida, Charlotte, North Carolina, and then spread all over the country. Now, you might be watching a stock car race and say pridefully, there goes a car just like mine. Well, it might look just like yours, and at one time, it was just like yours. But when a car is selected for stock racing, the engine is completely reworked. And now, the granddaddy of American racing, Indianapolis 500-mile Classic. Of course, there's the parade, the bands, the beautiful baton-twirling drum majorette, and crowds. Crowds, crowds. The excitement begins when they wheel the cars out onto the track and line them up by their assigned positions.
Now the big moment that we've been waiting for has arrived. And to do honor to this moment with those famous words, here is Mr. Tony Almond.
Then comes the first real thrill. The balloons go up, and the starter calls out, "Gentlemen, start your engine." The pace car leads the field to the starter's flag, and the great Indy 500 is underway.
Hold up. And the green flag is out. And the race is on. Some cars get through. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars involved on the very first lap. The track is open in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars perhaps. A car hit the wall on the outside just as the field got the green flag. The red flag is out and the race has been stopped here at the very start. And the green flag is out.
The Indy 500 has a great number of firsts. For one thing, it has the longest history of continuity of all auto races. Indianapolis attracts the greatest number of spectators. Takes in the most money and pays out the most money of all auto racers. The pit crews in Indianapolis have become the fastest, most efficient that racing has ever seen. Their manner of servicing a car is as fascinating as the race itself. Yes, the Indianapolis 500 has done a lot to change the automobile, but that works two ways. The automobiles which race there have done a lot to change Indianapolis. It was once fondly referred to by the race drivers as the old brickyard because it was paved with bricks. The bricks are gone now because as speeds increased, vibration increased, and the old brickyard just couldn't take it. The big oval is now a sleek macadam surface which can handle the present speeds. The Indy 500 has been running for a long time. And it'll run a long time into the foreseeable future. In fact, it may never be deposed as king of the speedways. World-famous Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. The longest, fastest, smoothest race course in the world. And part-time home of what the other racers call the lonely breed. Craig Breedlove, a famous member of the lonely breed. The first man to go faster than 500 miles per hour. On Earth, that is.
He's moving out. He's on course, looking good. Here he comes, moving fast. He's past the 8 and really standing on it. He's looking good. He's roaring. He's coming into the mile. He's really moving. He's out of the mile. I see his smoke trail. Something came off of the car. He lost his chute. He lost his chute. He's in the 3, and he's not slowing down. He's approaching the 2. Man, he's really moving. He's past the 2. He's out of control.
A new land speed record. A near disaster. Breedlove's record, 526 and 28/100ths miles per hour. His top speed, nearly 540 miles per hour. His reward, a bath and a miracle. He lived. The lonely breed is made up of men in a hurry. Only days after Breedlove set his record, Art Arfons is out to beat it. There's some very interesting differences in these two jet cars. Craig Breedlove's J47 jet engine puts out something over 5,000 pounds of thrust. Art Arfon's big J79 jet power plant puts out about 17,000 pounds of thrust. 3 times as much power. In addition, Breedlove rolled on 3 wheels, Arfon's on 4. Takeoff time. Check the tails. Strain fuel. Last-minute inspection of safety gear. Arfons is buckled into the cockpit. final heat check. All conditions go. A new record by our pawns. 536 3/4 miles per hour. 10 1/2 miles faster. Records are ephemeral things. They may stand for years. They may fall in minutes. How fast will man finally roll on wheels? No one knows. Not even the lonely breed. You know, when we look at the world of wheels as it is today, it's hard to believe that the wheel itself is thousands of years old. Who made the first wheel and what it looked like, no one can be sure. Quite possibly it was just a slice of wood cut from a tree trunk. But what we can be sure of is that the ancient Egyptians made the wheel a delicate thing of beauty. Their chariots were light, strong, and handsome to the eye. The Romans carried on and made further progress with the wonderful wheel. Man increased his horsepower with teams of horses in tandem, and coaches became larger. He also put a roof over his head for more comfortable traveling. Man invented the semi-elliptical spring and evolved a quite comfortable vehicle. Still horse-drawn, of course. And the motor car was literally just around the corner. The horseless carriage became an accomplished fact. Man was soon to be free to move about with a speed which no draft animal could hope to match. Our future generation. What will they be driving? The air car? A jet car? Gas turbine? An atom-powered beauty? Or will they be out of this world in a space car? Well, I don't know about you, but I know it's pretty difficult for me to realize that the automobile as we know it today has been achieved in something like 75 years. Pretty impressive, wouldn't you say? Now we're heading for outer space. From the horse and buggy to the moon in 3 easy quarter-century lessons. And who knows what the future holds in store for us, huh? Well, it was nice being with you. Hope you enjoyed the trip, too. And I'll be looking for you now, somewhere along the road, in this wonderful world of wheels.